Hi, my name is Charlotte Helmig, and for my STEM capstone project, I focused on bridging the communication gap to personalized caregiving. So, how did I get this idea to focus on caregiving? Off the bat, I knew that I wanted to focus on creating a resource for people in the Alzheimer's community to rely on. I grew up visiting my grandmother who had Alzheimer's, and I was always inspired to create some sort of a solution. I started my STEM project by brainstorming solutions, then conducting research, followed by interviews, and finally a site visit. My initial idea started with the impact of mental exercise. Mental exercise focused on brain games, boosting memory, and ultimately building up the brain to fight off the disease. This idea transformed into focusing on brain health and the six pillars of brain health, which are listed above. After researching and expanding my knowledge, I saw how personalized taking care of someone with Alzheimer's is. This was a new focus of mine where I designed an app to individualize caregiving in a way that also updated family members. When I explained my original app idea to people at a local senior home, they informed me that creating a scheduling app for caregiving would create issues with the family members having access to too much knowledge. Excessive knowledge will not allow the family member to spot trends and will only allow them to see temporary changes. This great feedback helped me alter my idea to focus on personalizing caregiving without focusing on a specific schedule that the caregiver must follow. With this helpful feedback, I created my problem statement. People in the Alzheimer's community need an improved communication system between loved ones and caregivers because it is important to incorporate individualized caregiving to make caregiving easier, more efficient, and personalized. So, this is a visual of my final idea. Family members will add their loved one's preferences into the app, and the caregiver will be able to see the important aspects of that person. With this method, caregivers can proceed with caregiving in a more personal way that sees the patient as a person rather than a number. In addition, the caregivers can notice trends that reveal how the patient has declined and in which ways. I then followed these three steps to code and design my app. First, I broke down the key aspects of life and created broad categories with more specific elements within each category. With the categories in mind, I mapped out my plan of creating the user interface with video tutorials, sketching out my plan, developing the user interface in Xcode, and finally creating graphics. Here's my original user interface, and I decided to keep it the same. I then coded the app where I first watched tutorials, learned a new method, watched more tutorials, and then learned core data. This is the drag and drop method I used to switch from page to page. I then wrote code where I followed tutorials to learn how to write certain methods. I also applied what I learned from tutorials onto the app. In addition, I learned how to use core data, which is a difficult program within the code that automatically stores information within the app. Here's a video on how to use the app. So here we're at the main menu where I'm going to click the food button. So that category will take me to a subcategory, which is breakfast. And under this subcategory, I'm going to add a new option. So I'll delete the add something and add my new piece of input, which in this case it's eggs. So then I click the add button, which adds it to the list of options. But for example, if I don't like this option, I can click and drag over to delete this option and we'll delete it from the list. So now that we've done that, we're going to go back to our menu to just close out this tutorial of one loop. From this project, I learned how to break down bigger concepts, enhance my problem-solving skills, became more resilient when coding was difficult, and time management. I also learned that it is okay to accept that I can't always do everything. For example, I could not finish coding the app, but this is something I plan on doing in the future. Thank you for listening, and a special thank you to Mr. Walter, Mr. Dickey, and my mentor, Mr. Lum, for your endless support, time, and patience.